Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be starting with this session in the next 3 minutes, and we are waiting for just few more friends to join us, and then we'll be resuming with the session. For those of you who have just joined, a very good evening. Thank you so much for joining. We will be starting with the webinar in the next 2 minutes. I think a lot of you have already joined us, so we will be beginning with the session now. So a very good evening, everyone. My name is Mahima Lal, and I am the part of engagement marketing team at Vired, and I'll be a host for today's webinar. So everyone, before we move into the webinar and the topic that we are presenting today, a quick introduction about this platform that we are today at, which is Wired. So everyone, Wired is a premium LearnTech company, which is the part of the larger Hero Group, where we are on a mission to not only reimagine the way people learn, but also to build a better and a brighter future for themselves. We at HeroWired ensure that we equip our learners with the right skill set, the right knowledge, and the expertise that they need in order to find success. So as you all can see that today we are presenting a webinar on a very interesting topic, which is XR applications and enterprises. And in order to present this topic, we have Jainaressh with us. A very warm welcome, Jainaressh.
Hey, thank you for
So
having
a
me
quick
today.
introduction to Jainaressh. So Jainaressh is currently working as a VR product head at HP, and he will be taking you through the XR application in enterprises, and he'll be giving you a brief introduction about himself. And with Jainaressh, we have Sagar Taneja also with us here. Sagar is the subject matter expert for our program into future tech, and he will be helping you out with the program details and how Hero Wired works in the domain of future tech. And we also have Avneet Johar with us. A very warm welcome, Avneet. He's right here with us. He'll be helping you out with all the details that you require in the domain of future tech, or if you want to know anything about Hero Wire in depth. So, everyone, as you're not new to this webinar, and if you are, then we are in a webinar setup and you won't be able to switch on your mics and your cameras. So, if in case you have any question or if you would like to interact with Jainaressh, you have a chat box, and for the question you have a Q&A section where you can put down your questions, and we have Jainaressh, Sagar, and Avneet who can help you out with their queries. And if you want to make this session interactive, you had a chat box where you can interact with Jainaressh. So I believe everyone, we are all set for the webinar, and over to you, Jainaressh.
Hey, thanks. Uh, First of all, let me understand how to share screen so that we can get on with the presentation.
Yeah. Can you see the new share,
Now it is saying somebody else has sharing screen and they need to stop. Huh.
maybe you can try now.
We're good?
Yes, I can see your screen now.
All right, perfect. All right, thank you everyone. Now, before I start into the world of XR as we call it today, right, let me give you a simple introduction to myself. I started my career in 2007-ish, right? I started as a game designer, right? So we were playing games and being monkey about it for a while. And from there, we kind of formed a team, and then that particular team matured into what we are all doing today. So when I use a lot of word by saying we here because my journey was always, with a lot of support from friends and family. So that's where I started working with multiple people, some of the industry veterans in XR zone. I was helping Unity establish its education and learning and training space in India. From there, I moved on to multiple other places, and now finally I'm at HP, where I am helping with their decisions, helping with their product series for extended reality. Right now, I'm here to share my experience of what AR/VR has actually come and become of sorts. So let's move on by saying I started predominantly in VR. Then I understood that, apart from video games and other things that have been there in the market, we have started seeing a lot of traction coming into the business world of sorts. So at HP, there is a constant wave of reinvention which is always happening. Now, why do I say reinvention and not invention? Is if you look at HP, it has been a technology pioneer of sorts, right from the day that you use your printers all the way to your PCs and laptops. We work with some of the best in the field markets, and we talk to the best technology partners, and with them we bring solutions affordable to people so that we can scale up and allow adoption to happen. At the same point of time, also make innovation happen through multiple people by giving them access to these technologies. So our vision in the XR zone is predominantly around the immersive XR system. Now, this set of technologies, right? Name it virtual reality or augmented reality, or we jointly call them as immersive technology, right? Like one of my friends jokingly even tells me that, it's for people to say it's the next IT of sorts. So what is XR, right? The word X is typically X, right? Which, like in any mathematical equation, you could use and say, okay, the X stands for anything and everything, right? Now, under the X, we have VR, AR, and MR, right? So, VR typically being the space where, let's say, you want to go to the moon, but you're not an astronaut, but you would like to be a researcher who uses this. So, you get into a virtual display environment, right? You put on a headset, you get into a cave environment, or you get into a room and the entire room can be transformed with a lot of display technologies so that you feel that you're standing in moon, looking around, researching just like an astronaut would do. The opposite of virtual reality is going to be augmented reality. Typically, every data that you encounter in VR is virtual, right? But in augmented reality, you bring data into the real world, right? Like maps is one great example. Everyone has been using maps for a while, and it typically tells you where you are. You're taking that data and you're trying to figure out where you want to go, and then you augment the path from where you are to where you want to go, and that forms augmented reality together. Now, then came something very new, which was mixed reality. Now, mixed reality itself was a new coin word by Microsoft, where they said, you know what, we are able to take reality, which is like objects in real world, right, and integrate them as part of the virtual space. Right now, what this ended up giving was, it ended up giving a world which was merging, right? You typically have a blurred line between augmented reality and real world, that you start using all that. Now, a simple visual representation for people to look at is this example where you have a duck, which is, let's say, in Kashmir, as an example, right? Now, everything around the duck is completely rendered out, right? It's not real, but you feel that you're there, you feel the duck is there, right? And the duck doesn't understand the difference between where it is, right? And that's typically what we are. We sit together, we enjoy it, we lose ourselves. And then we have augmented reality. Typically, everybody does this, right? Everybody, boy or girl, they have Snapchat or they have Instagram filters that you pull up on your mobile phone. You look at it and it says, you know what, you look 30-ish, right? And then you put on a few filters, then it suddenly tells you you're 20-ish, right? It makes you feel good. It augments the level of makeup on you, right? And it also gives you all these. What happens if you're a girl, if you're a boy, a gender swap, right? That kind of augmentation where you're using some data, putting it overlaid on top of your camera feed, that is the AR zone, right? Now, take that and then you come into mixed reality. Now, the difference here is, if you look at it, the same duck is actually behind a table. Now, in AR, you're understanding that you don't have depth, but in mixed reality, right, the spatial computing or the holographic computing understands that there is a table, there is a chair, and then there is a wardrobe or a book shelf behind you, and then it is able to interact in that real world, right? So that puts everybody's perspective of mixed reality by saying that, all right, if you want to go service an elevator, right, or a big flight, right, you need to guide somebody to say, go to this particular terminal, take that particular screw, and that's where mixed reality overshadows AR. But from a common man perspective, AR like dominates today's work, right? Now, having shown these three as the top three XR packages, there are other technologies that actually fall into this category. We have haptics, we have feel, we have other sensory experiences all being brought into this virtual world of union. Now, what is this doing? Now, this particular field, which we typically call XR, has started becoming a change agent. Now, what do I mean by a change agent is earlier we used to search, right? Like you go to Google, you would type and say, hey, Google, can you tell me or show me a few research papers, right? Now, that was a point everybody learned how to do Google, right? We were typically using search words, keywords, and we understood how to work with search engines. And then today the age that we are is in a area where we are all AI enabled, which typically means that we are becoming less and less dependent on ourselves, right? So now you go to chat gpt and just you don't search, you ask it what you want, right? If you say write me a code for a mobile application which will calculate, let's say, prime numbers or something, it's going to do it for yourself, right? So we are seeing that as an example of how the interaction between what customers used to do earlier, which is typically mouse, keyboard, write lines of code to make computer work for you, being converted into simple English, now being given into chat GPTs. Now, AR, VR, MR are changing that for interfaces, right? If you want to shop, right, typically you would go and say blue color bag, right? Now today all you have to do is using AR VR. I'll take a photograph of your friend, right, who's having the bag, and you point at the bag and it tells you it's available at Flipkart at this price, Amazon at this price. Now you're not searching, you're just capturing a place, right? And that is giving you this innovative XR solution by saying you don't even have to type. So going forward, we are seeing not just HP or people like Meta or Apple doing this. We are going to be seeing more and more companies, right, using this interface very fast and very quick. Okay. Now, people have been talking about metaverse as the pinnacle of XR evolution. In fact, today, if you say AR, VR, MR, people are going to say, okay, are you building a metaverse? Right? Even though they are synonymous, they are two different worlds of together. In fact, if you look at it, XR is just one layer, which is called the spatial computing layer in the entire metaverse architecture. So you have metaverse, which uses spatial computing. You have consumer electronics like Apple, right? Your iPhones and your Android, everything using spatial computing. And then you're going to have laptops, which are already using spatial computing in one format, right? And the best part is this interface is cropping into everything, right? We are seeing right from gaming to big industrial IoT applications started using AR, VR, and MR as an interface mechanism to move forward. So today, when people ask us, where are we tell them, we have seen the PC age, we have seen the mobile age, right? And we have started observing the XR age, right? We have seen people take photographs. Like if you go inside Flipkart and say you want to buy a 65-inch TV, but you're not sure whether it fits your house, you could have a virtual try on session, which actually tells whether the TV fits your house, right? Or in another space, if you say, I want to try out address, right? You could virtually try it on yourself using AR technologies and come to the next stage. Now, VR and AR, right, by individual mechanism have enabled this till 2022, right, which was till the last year. And 2023 onwards, we are seeing that everything has been changed, right? It's becoming more experiential. We are seeing the entire human interface getting reorganized with this set of functions. And that is where we are saying, going more forward, you're going to have personalized experiences, right? What you're seeing, nobody else will going to see. Like the one that Apple has been talking about. You put on your glasses, the results that you're getting is completely private, that you can't, have a web browser tracking you kind of a thing. Now, why is this happening? Earlier, people used to talk about, what compute is all about CPU, right? So if you have a CPU, right, it can do all kinds of workloads for you. It's suitable to do multitasking, but at the same point of time, all it does is it can do general purpose work. Like there is an OS, the OS has to load an application, and then you talk to it, right? And off late today, what we are seeing is we want the same CPU to do multiple workloads, right? In fact, I have a friend who doesn't even close his Chrome browser, right? And he has like around 60 to 70 tabs open at any point of time, and he works in finance, and he needs that. He has three monitors, and all the three monitors need to have this very exquisite tracking system that gives him the heads up of what is happening, right? And one of the things that we saw is the CPU never went down in the usage part. But what we are seeing is with more and more applications creating more and more parallel workloads, the computers have started using the GPU. GPU stands for graphic processing unit. Typically, this is your video card, right? This is how your display comes onto your monitor. The advantages, if you say the high end CPU is going to have 64 different cores to work with, a GPU typically has 256, right? At a cheaper cost, much affordable price. So that's where we are seeing more and more people leveraging the graphics power, right, to do all these kind of experiences. Now, what is this kind of experience? If you look at it, we are looking at people collaboratively creating multiple experiences as an ARVR, right? We have seen people use around $2.7 billion have been generated by video game market alone in the XR space, right? And we have seen everybody from architecture, automotive. We also have industrial use cases where the entire oil rig is being built in VR, right? And why do people do all this? Because of certain new things like sustainable goals that they want to adopt. Virtual reality and augmented reality are seen as tools of adoption so that they can build more sustainable practices within the enterprises. So that's where HP predominantly plays a huge role by augmenting, the right tool sets for the companies in the enterprise zone. And we also educate them how other people have found great solutions for themselves. And we are going to be looking at a few products and few use cases that enterprises and XR have actually played out to the benefit of society. Right. All right. So how do we do this? HP has what we call as uh, ISV program, which is typically if you're a startup creating great content, we take the content and bundle it with our hardware so that there is a lot of solution available for our enterprise customers. Now, apart from that, we also do the certified vendor program, which typically says that whatever tools that your team is already using, it might be Unity, Unreal, or Katia, right, Adams, right? you're going to be seeing the entire portfolio being certified to be working with XR. Now, this is great because you don't have to learn an additional tool, and you can use the tool directly to learn how to, collaborate over XR experiences. Now, from our experience, we have seen three different types of market blooming, right? One is the training market where all the enterprises have been working with us, building content and creating these absolutely fantastic, sustainable training practices. We have seen companies like Ford, right, use XR to create content for the next version of engines. Now, why is it important? A typical engine part to be manufactured is around $200 million, right? Traditionally, they will build a part on a computer, then put it on a CAD file, then do a clay model of it, then check the representation whether it fits in or not fits in. So they will have around 10 to 20 variations of the same, so that there is 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter gap that can be avoided. And finally, when you put the engine together, you're going to see each and every part, right, is going to be a cost of $200 million. That was not a sustainable process for people to put across. Today, we are seeing right from the headlamp all the way down to smaller components like nuts and bolts being created in XR, and you have a huge cost saving, really around 100 to 120 percentage ROI on the process because XR has been accepted. And then we have the collaboration space. When you want to build an oil rig, it involves multiple levels of team, right? And these multiple levels of team is actually creating a huge rift in the space, because we need an engineer to talk to an architect, and both of them should be talking to a project manager on the field, right? And this mixed match of information is only possible in a virtual environment and a digital world. And that is where these metaverses, typically tailored towards enterprise experiences, have actually helped a lot of teams to talk to each other by looking at just not 2D information, but also 3D information in a VR space. Right. And the last but not the least, we have the well-being bucket. Now, telehealth has been somewhat in a very rampant mode because of COVID. We have started talking to people, on the phones more. But at the same point, we have also started accepting doctors on the call, right? We've been talking to doctors, we've been talking to how they've been working, and doctors are now able to understand your well-being by small IoT sensors disguised as smartwatches. They're able to collect your data from your mobile phone either on Google Fit or on Apple Health, right? All this is now being able to track whether you've done your work for today. Now we are seeing the same trend move into XR, where XR is also providing where you are, how you are, and what kind of version that you're doing. Now, looking at all this, HP has been contributing the ecosystem in two different formats. One is we have a series of workstation which are portable again and not portable. Like one example is this ZBook Studio, which is a high-end graphic compute device that you can take around and move, right? And which was not typically possible earlier. And then all the way to the first of interfaces where we have head-mounted displays which could connect to these PCs and transfer you into these virtual environments. So we have been putting these headsets in the top of the line products, right from NASA, where you're seeing high quality renders required, all the way down to our own place like movie production, where we have AR Rahman actually launching his first 3D 360-degree film, The La Mask, right? We have seen HP partner with all of these people to provide them state of the art XR hardware to support their ecosystems. So today, the complete suite of products that we have is for students all the way down to professionals. And that brings us to the first league by saying this is the digital missing piece that people require to jump into ARVR, right? The second piece that we fixed was we collaborated with all the core XR partners, right? We have Microsoft, we have Steam VR, right? Who are like, just to give you an example, at any moment of time in 2022, right? We had 2 million people on VR, right? Using through Steam, right? And that improved a lot of audio and optics for us. And that's where we started becoming, from a product company into an experiential company, right? We also started looking at biodata, which started giving us insights to saying where you stressed in VR, where you're not stressed in VR. Now, this might not be important for a gamer, but this is definitely important for a company like let's say Accenture or TCS, who is trying to build the next expertise in XR. So we started building this and we started calling ourselves, all right, we are bringing VR to all the customers in this particular niche zone, right? Who are these customers, right? So there are a few examples of what we have seen XR in enterprises, right? The first problem that we had was when a huge company, which is a welding company, started focusing on how they can get a lot of people trained on welding practices. Now, I ask people to talk about the challenges that they normally face. And we have seen that this is one of the areas where it looks very minuscule, but then there is a lot of material cost which is involved in skilling the people. And one thing that we did with them was we closely worked with them to build a VR training platform, right? And they were not happy initially because of the quality of the complete rendering. They wanted to see more, they wanted to see how far the welding was done, right? And that's where they chose to go with the newer headset that we have, which was called the Reverb G2. And they liked the look and feel of the quality that the headset could bring it on. And we were kind of worried typically on how people would actually look at this. But ultimately, this became a normal practice, and people started using them to train multiple batches on telling them how to do welding, how to do plasma cutting, right? And these are, places where you make a mistake and you actually have problems with, the particular model. Now you can redo it multiple times. VR gave them the opportunity to do it again and again, and that's where we have very happy trainers who have been trying to tell students how to do this better. What about oil and gas companies? Now, one of the examples I said is we have been seeing a lot of compelling statistics telling us this is a very remote thing to do, right? Because the moment you go on an oil and gas company, you might be dispatched to some location, and it might be huge high risk environment if you do not manage emergencies, right? So we work with multiple customers to understand what these could be. And finally, we took all that problem statement that they had and created a series of training exercises, which is all custom and triggered and random. Like the moment you go on an oil rig in VR, you're going to hear suddenly people say there's a fire in the second deck, right? Now, if you've learned things better, you know exactly what to do, right? But it is just not that learning part of knowing what to do. You also have to go there and typically do it step by step. So that's where these big VR experiences help people in the oil and gas company to become more experienced. At the same time, they actually brought down the number of accidents, right? very, very low percentile of 1%. And they were very happy that most of the people knew what to do. And it built on a stronger business ROI because the plant downtime came so low that it was like continuously working, and whatever the company expected also happened. Now, this is one of the most popular use cases that we talk to people about, right? Typically, if you want to buy a sofa, right, you don't know whether it's going to fit in your house, right? And using a lot of ARVR partners, we built this project for them where we said, you know what, forget the sofa. What if you buy a house and you don't like the space? So we built an entire virtual house and we said, take whatever time you like inside the house, right? Now on the right, you can see what the actual house is, just a small box, but it gives you the feeling whether you're on a 600 square feet, whether you're on a 1500 square feet, whether you're in a bedroom which is of 120 square feet, or in your bedroom is 200 square feet, right? Now, why did we do this? Even though you're a furniture company, right? People have problems with understanding spaces. You might like a king size bed, but ultimately you might have a room which is pretty small for everything, right? To do all that experience, we built this for them and they were pretty happy of how this thing turned out to be, right? And apart from this, there are certain use cases which I can't dwell into. It happens in aerospace, right? Because nobody is going to tell you, get on a flight and learn how to drive. Right? That's one of the reasons why people use simulators, and AR/VR has been there for a long period of time. So aerospace, military, law enforcement, especially all the high risk scenarios which the police is never going to have, right? We are able to bring that to their experience them, and ultimately we have seen a lot of learning happening, faster because of this. So this is one example video that I'm going to share of one of our clients, right? A very top notch client. They've been huge fans of XR, right? And they were one of the early adopters. They've been doing this for a pretty sweet time. Like when I say pretty sweet time, right from the mention of uh, XR or VR, right, in the age of Oculus. This was right before 2015. They have been using AR VR technologies to understand and build solutions faster. Why? It's easier to build, let's say, one building, but if you are given an entire city to construct, that is where it takes time. That is where you need to understand what happens. Now, this particular example that you're looking at, right, is a mixed reality experience in the year 2014-15, where typically this entire city is being tested, right? And this is in Dubai, and Dubai is known for strong winds. And they wanted to understand the impact of huge, large buildings and understand where exactly would there be weak points, where exactly there needs to be stronger reinforcements, right? So this was a phenomenal experience for us to listen to them, and we told them instead of the big table, we can put all that in VR for you. So in VR, the entire solution was built, right? Constructed, simulated, and the design team, typically, the sail design of that is very famous today in some of the things that they do. These architects think of everything and put that virtually in a format that everybody can collaborate on. So it is just not that there is a design, you bring that design to the real world, right? And they test it out. So this is the VR perspective of what they're looking at. But in real life, when you look at the clients coming into it, this is what you're going to see. They're going to be walking in an office, right? Feeling literally different, right? This might be a simple room or a big skyscraper. So they really take the clients out, put them in this portable computer, right? And then tell people to look up, right? And what they are looking is very different from the current world that you're seeing here, right? And you have people at the back who are architects looking at the entire scan, right? So we used a lot of drone photogrammetry to get the models ready, and these models were then overlaid to what the customers wanted to look at this particular stage. So when they are walking this location, right, typically they are putting the building here. So if you look at very closely at this particular location, you can see the actual building which would replace it in the near future, right? They are calculating the height, and they are collaborating, they're changing, right? And the most important part was COVID hit, right? People still need to work. And being in XR allowed them to work from different world. So one was based out of Germany, one was based out of Singapore, but they were all deploying to a client in Dubai, right? And with multiple devices. So this is one of the key delivery mechanisms that we talk about people and how they use it across AEC industry, right? So moving on to the next use case, right, where we have seen huge cost reductions happening, it's in product development cycles. Designing a product is going to take a lot of cost. If you're buying, let's say, a simple box, the first box is not 500 rupees, but the first box is going to be around 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs until it is being designed to perfection. And if you're able to do all that in 3D multiple times, you're saving everything at 50K and less in every process. So what happens next is you need to destroy the box, right? You spend a lot of money making the box and then you destroy it to understand how it is going to withhold pressure, how it's going to withhold stress, how it's going to delivery cycles. Now, this is just not a box. Imagine this at the scale of a car. They do that for the car as well. Once the car chases is ready, you go and crash it. You get a safety rating only if you crash a few cars, right? And that is going to give you a huge return on investment because one car might cost somewhere around 20 lakhs, right? Into the number of cars that you're ready to crash, you bring it that all into VR and simulation, you're going to see a very controlled dynamic situation where you're saying you don't have to crash 20 cars. Instead, you have simulated most of the thing in computer, and just 5 to 6 in real world is more than enough. Now, this is where manufacturing companies have taken a leap. Their entire design process has become virtual. Today, virtual prototyping and manufacturing has become a field of study in multiple zones where people are completely doing virtualization technologies for their own processes manufacturing. One example I'm going to show you here is of Nissan, how they have started VR as a process to build their cars. Now, this is just not for the entire design of chases, but even the interior stage. Okay. I think the wrong video is playing. Just give me a minute to solve this.
Jainaressh, I think the video has been paused.
No, it's the wrong video. I'm just trying to pull in the right video. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
All right. All right. We're back up. So what you're looking at is Nissan, right? Which has a concept car, right? They're completely in VR, trying to build a complete dashboard interface, right? And this interface is not built, no plastic has been used, no clay models have been used. It's all directly from 3D to testing. And the interface that you see in their hand is a haptic device called haptics, right? Which allows you to feel all these virtual objects. right? Right from the gear system all the way to the steering and the rear view control, everything can be felt. Now, this is one of the most high end tech that allows people to build a concept car even before it comes to the floor. Like even before it comes to the Delhi Auto Show or the Beijing Auto Show, you're going to see all this happening, which means that you have saved a lot of time prototyping between your 3D experience and your physical ones, right? And the best part is you get to touch and feel. So if you're a crazy designer having a great idea, this is the toolkit that you need to get into and say, okay, I can do all this for very less and very fast. All right, now to get away from this, where else have we seen enterprises accept? One is astonishingly in entertainment zones, right? Now, if you go to Bengaluru or Delhi or any other malls, you're going to have a place where you're going to go into VR, pay 200 rupees, have a fun experience, and come back, right? But we have seen things move beyond that, right? We have seen a place where a big warehouse, we have 20 to 30 police officers, right? Completely getting trained on a scenario like a takeover of a complex near Siberia. The entire team was playing it as a game, right? We call them as LBE, location based entertainment spaces, right? This whole VR simulation doesn't happen in a single mission, but it happens in a huge warehouse where you're able to do all this, right? Theme parks, obviously. Museums, they have completely changed. Now, if you go to Dubai, which is one of the great examples of seeing, you walk into the room, the entire room reacts to you, right? This is one example of where you don't have a HMD, but you have a 3D display mechanism, but you still have interaction design happening for XR spaces. Marketing, right from Coca-Cola to Nike, everybody have started using XR to build their product. Today, if you go to Lenscart website on the browser, right, and based on your face, right, if you're round, it says, you know what, you have a round face, and at the back end, the AI tells you, then you should go with a square goggles or glasses. So we have game developers, entertainment marketing, museums, right? At the same point of time, kids more interested in using AR/VR. The next is cinemas. Obviously, everybody in the cinema world uses it for virtual production, right? And in India specifically, we have seen right from Bahubali all the way to okay. Instead of saying the movie names, I should say right from Srinivas Mohan, who did Bahubali, and RRR, use these kind of shoots, right? Where they don't want to go to a location, but the entire location is rendered in VR in collaboration to what people have as interfaces and design. So we are seeing post production and pre production also changing and saving a lot of money for great storytelling. So the last industry that we're going to touch upon is the healthcare industry. It's getting very tough to figure out how do we actually interact with doctors, right? Pretty much every doctor, after learning 5 years of MBBS, needs his first patient, right? And nobody wants to be that. Everybody wants to take some time to understand whether this doctor has some experience or not, right? So what they do is they typically force people to open up a clinic or come down to the medical college and have get free treatment of sorts. So now these doctors can at least have a digital patient, get trained on the digital patient, perform the procedure multiple times before they actually, look at somebody real. Just like what Boeing says for the flight, you need to go in VR, spend 500 hours on a simulator before you actually touch a flight. Now, it is possible that, doctors could also do it soon. All right. So what's next? We have been talking about various zones, various VR, AR experiences in industries, but where do I see all this moving? Right now, we are seeing 2023 as an amalgamation stage where we are seeing AI, computer vision, interfaces of XR all getting meshed up into a single practice, right? And we are also seeing that they're able to become more predictive in the system. Okay. But all this said and done, we are also seeing more parallel compute happening, which means more GPU based rendering, more graphics, more camera based, right? We are seeing the age of text slightly coming down as well. So, one example of what people are able to do, right, in the upcoming computing zone. So, this is right off fresh from the bat from NVIDIA itself, who is one of our partners. So you get your experience on mobile when you're traveling, capturing your real life home, arranging it with all the furnitures, all you require. But that's just the consumer part. And from the enterprise part, we are able to see that Walmart have literally digital twins of their entire warehouses. Now, suppose I want to see what is coming up in the production line. I just need a darkery or some other AR glasses, and I would get that information off the shelf. Now, these are all real world solutions, right? Where NVIDIA has an offering called Omniverse. And using Omniverse, people have built these solutions and they are live running with multiple different partners. Now, this is one example of how things have changed in retail, right? You just go in, take, and get out. You're going to get a bill in your mobile. You just pay it off using UPI or something. Your delivery missions. So, right from retail industry to warehousing to, let's say, businesses from different places, everybody is changing their approach, right? And it is just not approach per se. We are even able to see examples of this to customers, right? Let's say that you're not ready, like you need to have a clean shave and go for a job interview. This is one example where we are saying that the digital compute has changed stuff. So you're seeing that there is somebody attending and talking on a video conference, right? But in real life, if you look at them, they're going to be with a mask in a workplace, right? And AI is able to predict their facial experiences. AI is able to correct their eye gestures, right? And transfer an interview as close as to the real life. And for this, you're going to see computer vision, you're going to see augmented reality, you're going to see machine learning, and finally, all that combined into a single cohesive video conferencing application for people. So, this is how we are seeing change happening, right? And it's going to get into your bathrooms, it's going to get into your life, right? But what is the actual statistics inside it, right? The four major thing apart from the AI coming into the XR platform is we are seeing that digital items are coming into real life, right? To give you an example, one of the complex items is maintaining inventory of hardware, right? Now, when you buy a car, you also own a digital version of the car. Now, why is it useful? Let's say after 20 years, your car manufacturer is no more, right? and but you would need a carburetor or let's say some other part that is required. The 3D printing technology today can print metal objects without flaw, right? And if you're going for a custom car, it is needless to say the price is going to be huge. So a digital version of the car, if you have, you can go it, get it 3D printed part of that particular car, put it into your actual piece, and move it off. Now, this might sound insane, but it is already happening. We have started seeing everybody like train companies using it, manufacturing companies using it to keep the robo plant up. So XR itself has started changing a lot of barriers, right? The problem with the XR industry at the moment of time, it's not an industry designed for all. There is a huge digital divide which is keeping people away from all these understanding. Either they don't understand it properly or they think they might not be ready for it. But today, off late, we have seen that apart from the industry adoption, a lot of people don't know what to do with XR. And that is typically because the lack of experiences on a VR ecosystem or a AR ecosystem. If you ask people in a consumer zone to say, okay, what best can I do with AR? Right? Immediately the answer is going to be, maybe we can take a photograph and find the objects within it. Or maybe like show examples of what happens in uh, Snapchat, right? Today, there is a need for people to be original, use these interfaces, and create content that can be easily accepted, right? And if you look at it, why people don't like AR VR experiences, the number two rating clearly says, I don't think there is enough content for people. Now we have come to the age where we have a great YouTube platform, but then there is no videos on YouTube, right? That is where we are seeing a lot of demand for newer, fresh people to join the ecosystem, build their products with this particular interface, right? But then the second problem comes in. Since AR, VR, and MR is very new, a lot of people don't understand what kind of user experience to give a user, how fluid it should be, right? So once we challenge and solve these two problems, that is when the adoption barrier is going to be lifted and a lot of people are going to come around it, right? Uh, why do people need to come around it? Very simple. This is one of the fastest growing industries, right? In fact, a lot of growth has been seen in this portfolio, right from medical training all the way to huge companies have actually scaled up teams in this particular. And what we are also seeing is this is one of the markets which have grown 18% right from 2021. Even though it is a slump, we are seeing that this is one of the markets which is still going up, right? And the biggest thing for students to look up at this particular area, it's invariably creating 23 million jobs, right? Which means a lot of people are going to get upskilled or reskilled or skilled, right? And they would need to be working in this particular industry. The amount of people available today is very small, and we are not able to, catch up to that cycle yet. So this is where the future is, and more and more industries are adopting AR/VR. But the problem, as I told you, is the workforce ready for it? Not yet. Okay. Now, uh, that's the end of my presentation. I will quickly go through a few questions. All right. So the first question is, will XR, okay, AR, okay, XR or AR help in the UX design industry? Obviously, I've given a lot of use cases where the design industry has been benefited from this. But typically, since you said UX, one example is the entire prototyping system, right? for a Figma or any other platform typically works on XR interfaces today. So it's a great place for you to start thinking about. In fact, one project where I closely worked is a bathroom mirror. It's a smart bathroom mirror. So typically, once you look at the bathroom mirror, it's going to give you the weather of the day. It's going to tell you you are late. It's going to be intelligent enough to tell you, you're not done your makeup today. Okay, so over there we have seen the UX industry changing completely an Android interface into what really should be on a bathroom mirror so that it's easier for people to use it. Going on to the second question, there are challenges that must be addressed, including cost, integration, training, and security. Precisely, this is where we have a lot of people experimenting, researching on better pipelines. But of late today, XR industry is still dependent on the GPU interfaces. But we have seen, because of the AI coming into play, a lot of companies have started doing what do you call them as cloud approach, right? You have still GPUs over the cloud, and you use those GPUs and deliver your AR/VR experiences. One such experience is coming in from NVIDIA. It's called the Cloud XR applications. So typically, the rendering is done on the cloud, and you're just looking at a real-time interaction on either your HMDs or your mobile phones. Now, that is going to bring in a lot of scalability and cost reduction. So it's like saying that a typical VR headset with its own rendering capability today costs around 1.5 lakh, right? And if you look at the consumer grade VR headset, that's going to be somewhere around 50K, right? And the cheaper headsets are typically like let's say 5K. But the cheaper headsets cannot do compute, so not a lot of people use them. But once Cloud XR takes up, you're going to see these headset costs come crashing down, right? You're going to see a lot more headsets coming down and say we are going to support Cloud XR, and which typically also means your mobile phone could be one of the first 5G enabled VR device. So you just put it on your mobile phone and your VR kicks in. So there is a lot of new pipelines coming in, but like I said, there is not a standard approach which is tested for people to bring across. All right, that's the first two questions. What's next? The next question is just a hi. Sorry. Just wanted to ask what other hero white. I'm going to leave that to Sagar. Sagar can take that up. The second question, I think I'm going to go to the last question. All right. What are the top XR, AR, VR games available besides Pokemon? Are there any 5G AR, VR headsets available? Okay, 5G AR, VR headsets not yet available. In fact, like I told you, once the Cloud XR architecture is set up, we will see new 5G headsets coming in. But what we have seen is Wi-Fi 6 standard headsets, which are great, which are like really good. Like when I say really good, they are as good as tethered headsets. They are coming up to 5G standards, so you will see something good over there. Now, apart from Pokemon Go, there is Harry Potter World, which is a AR experience for people to go in, look at, experience it, right? But those are typically for more tier one gamers. When I say tier one gamers, US, Australia, UK, as an example, right? What we have also seen is games like Monkey Kong, right? Monkey Kong is one experience where you would see. I don't know if you guys remember Donkey Kong from the Nintendo days. This is one place where Monkey Kong in AR is really great. So you should try that out. Okay, next question. Where does India stand as of now in terms of XR? We are still below the digital adoption scale. But what we have seen is most of the experience built for the US, the UK, the Swedens, the Australians is all from India. So that way we are still the software masters, but ultimately we would need to learn to create our own products if India has to become a champion of its own, right? Uh, right. What's the next one? Where does Pokemon comes only under the AR. Absolutely yes. Even the Harry Potter series, they're all AR based. If it is VR, you could look at what do you call them? Beat Saber and other things. There's few more examples to look at. How do you ensure people don't start living in their own simulation? Well, unfortunately, this is one of the negativities. I shouldn't say negativities. I'd say this is one of the things that people should be aware of, right? With the right education of sorts, people will not do this. So every technology is going to have its plus and minus, and this is the minus part of it, where you're going to see a lot more people trying to do. Okay, virtual life is better than real life, but with proper education and with proper health advisory roles, I think that is something that can be solved. In the gold rush of AR, VR, MR, what's the best India can contribute? At the moment of time, young minds. Okay, but to give you a little bit insights, I would say we have new AR, VR headsets being built by Indian companies, right? In fact, some of the Indian company, in fact, Reliance Jio is one great example. They are trying to build their own VR headset and MR headset for everybody to experience, right? But we also have startups like Ajna Lens, right? Who have actually gone to this year's CES, and they've been awarded as one of the most innovative companies to actually, bring about a change in the AR VR zone, right? In fact, they are also lightweight, so you can put it on kids.
Guys,
Okay.
any other question that you would like to answer?
Uh, Echo 3D is also a good cloud service. Yeah, absolutely, yes. We have seen Echo 3D make much more bigger frame rates for 3D model. It is just that the Omniverse has a connected experience. Like you want to connect it with an IoT or an industrial database, I can do it in. But like you said, Echo 3D, Spatial.io, these are few more examples which you can experience all the cloud XR services, right? All right. Lightship is the tool to build similar to Pokemon Go. Yeah, Lightship is one more tool. In fact, if you're looking at tools to explore, Unity 3D, Unreal, right, Adobe Dimensions. In fact, there's a lot of noise being created around Canvas, but that is something which which only course of time can tell us. But there are multiple tools like Eighth Wall, which would be great in bringing up. So that's something that you can open your eyes and keep looking at, experiencing it. But for a learning perspective, I would say learn one tool completely so that you're able to deliver on multiple projects, because then the industry is going to give you time to explore and architectures together. People who come from a different background. I'm guessing when you say different background, non-technical background on computers, and have little to no experience in coding, be welcome in it. Absolutely, yes. We have everybody from designers, artists, programmers, all sitting in the same room, yelling at each other, trying to create some piece of work. So typically, yes. This is extended reality is a domain for coders and non-coders alike, right? But ultimately, if you don't know what is extended reality, then that's a bad place to be at. Lightship ARDK in Unity. Yes, so it's the same tool, like how you want to create Pokemon Go, right? But you have multiple other SDKs as well, right? You could start with something as simple as, let's say, AR Core or AR Kit, but then you can move on to Eighth Wall and other professional AR SDKs that will help you, build better applications. I think I'm done with most of them, right? Anything on my
Yeah,
chat?
yeah.
Not yet.
I don't see any other questions.
All right.
In which city in India has
Something
supported
just
development?
popped
There's
up.
one question, I think.
All right. Yeah. So Eighth Wall is WebXR. It's for making your computer come alive on a browser. So if you want extended reality on a browser, Eighth Wall is a great thing to go with. Which city in India has support for development of extended? Is Mumbai a good starting? But I would say all the metro cities. In fact, I'm sitting out of Chennai, so we are good. So I've seen companies come in Pune, Mumbai, Hyderabad, all the metro cities, including states like Kerala. They have Trivandrum, which is one more focal point for ARVR companies. So there's a lot there you can look up onto.
Great. I think we have answered a lot of questions here. And thank you so much, Jainaressh, for sharing the insights on the topic. And there were a lot of new things that our audience might have learned through this webinar. And it was a great experience to see everything and how everything works in the extended reality. Thank you so much for sharing all the insights over the topic. And it was great to have you on board for this webinar. And looking forward to have many more webinars with you on extended reality. It was a
Thank you.
great session. Thank you so much.